The automotive world isn't just buzzing right now, it's being forced to confront something it has quietly ignored for years. What's unfolding goes far beyond a single damaged hypercar or a YouTube rebuild series. At the center of it all is Mat Armstrong, and whether intentionally or not, he has pulled back the curtain on a system that brands like Bugatti have spent decades perfecting. And the reason this situation feels so explosive isn't just because of what he rebuilt, but because of what he revealed along the way. It all starts with a crash, the kind that would normally mark the quiet end of a car's story. A Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport, a machine engineered to exist at the very peak of automotive performance and exclusivity, ends up written off with a salvage title. In most cases, that's where the narrative stops. Cars like this aren't meant to come back. They aren't designed with independent rebuilds in mind, and certainly not by individuals operating outside the manufacturer's tightly controlled ecosystem. But this time, instead of disappearing into obscurity, the car found its way into Armstrong's hands, and that's where everything began to unravel. From the moment he attempted to source parts, the resistance became apparent. It wasn't just a simple refusal or a polite decline. The response or lack of it felt calculated. There were no clear explanations, no transparent reasoning, just layers of friction that made progress as difficult as possible. What stood out wasn't that access was denied, but how it was denied. It suggested something deeper than standard policy. It hinted at a system designed not merely to protect the product, but to guard the process behind it. And that distinction matters, because when a company focuses more on controlling how something is repaired than on the object itself, it raises an uncomfortable question. Where is the real value being protected? As Armstrong continued documenting his journey, that question began to answer itself in ways that even seasoned enthusiasts didn't expect. Piece by piece, workaround by workaround, components started appearing that looked strangely familiar. These weren't mythical, one-of-a-kind parts forged in some secret facility. In some cases, they shared DNA with vehicles that exist at a completely different price point. The discovery that certain elements like airbags could be traced back to models from Audi or Volkswagen didn't just surprise people. It disrupted a long-standing perception. It forced viewers to reconsider what they were really paying for when they entered the hypercar world. Meanwhile, Mat Armstrong, a figure closely associated with the modern direction of Bugatti, became an unspoken presence in the conversation. Not because he publicly engaged with the situation, but because of the silence surrounding it. And that silence has proven to be one of the most powerful elements in this entire story. In a digital age, where narratives move at incredible speed, choosing not to respond doesn't make something disappear, it often amplifies it. Every day that passes without clarification or acknowledgement adds weight to the footage Armstrong has shared. It transforms speculation into something that feels increasingly like evidence. And the audience watching this unfold isn't just made up of casual viewers. Among them are potential buyers, industry insiders, and people who operate in circles where decisions about multi-million-dollar purchases are made with careful consideration. Imagine being one of those buyers. You've spent, or are considering spending, millions on a car that represents the pinnacle of engineering and exclusivity. Then you watch a publicly documented rebuild, showing that access to parts, knowledge, and support is tightly controlled. You begin to realize that ownership might not be as complete as you assumed, that maintaining and repairing the vehicle could depend entirely on the manufacturer's willingness to cooperate. It changes the nature of ownership from something absolute into something conditional. That's where the discomfort begins to set in. Because what's being exposed isn't just a logistical challenge, it's a dependency. A realization that, without the manufacturer's blessing, even the most well-funded owner could face significant barriers. There's no widespread independent network, No open ecosystem of parts, no accessible database of technical knowledge. Everything remains centralized, and that centralization only works as long as it isn't questioned. Armstrong didn't set out to dismantle that system, but by documenting every step, he's effectively created something incredibly powerful, a blueprint. Every workaround he discovered, every alternative source he identified, every expert he collaborated with, it's all there, captured and shared. What was once hidden behind closed doors is now searchable, discussable, and most importantly, repeatable. That has implications far beyond this single car, because there will be other salvage hypercars in the future, and when they appear, the people working on them won't be starting from zero. They'll have a reference point. They'll have proof that it can be done. And each subsequent rebuild has the potential to become faster, more efficient, and more visible than the last. For Bugatti, the real concern isn't just Armstrong himself, it's what he represents. He wasn't supposed to succeed in this way. The system wasn't designed to accommodate independent success stories. It was designed to ensure that cars in this condition would quietly fade away, reinforcing the idea that stepping outside the official ecosystem wasn't viable. Instead, this became one of the most visible hypercar rebuilds ever documented, and that visibility is changing perceptions. Competitors haven't needed to say a word. Brands like Koenigsegg and Pagani are benefiting simply by not being at the center of this controversy. For potential buyers exploring their options, the absence of a similar narrative becomes a quiet advantage, because when doubt enters the equation, even subtly, it influences decision-making in ways that are hard to quantify but impossible to ignore. And then there's the financial side of it all. The hypercar market thrives on a certain level of opacity. Pricing isn't just about materials and engineering. It's about perception, exclusivity, and the intangible value of the brand. But when real-world costs begin to surface, when parts are identified, compared, and discussed openly, that opacity starts to fade. Margins that were once abstract become visible, and visibility at that level can create tension between expectation and reality. For buyers operating in this space, trust is everything. If that trust is shaken, even slightly, it doesn't just affect a single transaction. It influences future decisions, conversations, and recommendations within a network of individuals who share information in ways the broader public rarely sees. This situation now stands at a crossroads. One path involves adaptation, acknowledging what's been exposed, engaging with the community, and finding a way to rebuild confidence. That could mean opening limited pathways for independent repair, increasing transparency, or simply addressing the concerns directly. Done correctly, it could transform a challenging moment into an opportunity for growth. The other path is to maintain the status quo, to continue with the same level of control, the same silence, the same reliance on a closed system. But if that happens, the blueprint Armstrong has already shared doesn't disappear. It continues to spread, to evolve, and to empower others. Over time, that could lead to an entirely new ecosystem, one built not by the manufacturer, but by the community itself. And that's the underlying shift taking place here. What started as a rebuild has turned into something much larger. It's a conversation about control, ownership, and access. It's about who gets to decide how a product is used, maintained, and understood after it leaves the factory. And right now, that control, once absolute, is beginning